Hello, everyone, and welcome to podcast number 45 from danjohnuniversity.com. First off, I'm just in from a great workout. I combine complexes with rucking about 2 days a week now, and I'm starting to add presses now too at the end of it. So maybe 3 to 5 sets of complexes, about a 2-mile ruck wearing my 60-pound vest, weights in my hands and ankle weights, and then when I get done I press. Today was not that day. It was a long one today. So if I look a little disheveled, that's what's going on. And again, thanks for listening. So we have a question from Bryce. How do I differentiate good coaches from bad ones? Boy, that is a spectrum, isn't it? That is a really good question. How do you find a good authority to work with, and how do you know when you see them? I'm relatively injury prone and could benefit from good coaching, but I'm sure of how to determine if that's what I'll receive. Here's the thing, Bryce, some really, really great coaches are some of the worst human beings I've ever met in my life. I don't want to mention names. They have issues with booze. They have issues with abusing their athletes and clients in every way, shape, and form you can imagine, including sexual predatory stuff. And yet they get people to perform. I mean, it's a conversation we were having this morning about famous comedians who do something that upset people. And then I'm supposed to say, well, I liked this movie, or I thought this comedy routine they did was great. And someone go, well, don't you know what they did? There's a famous singer who was basically my age who became famous for walking backwards like he was on the moon. And one of the people said today, I can't listen to him anymore because of his past. And I'm like, okay. So I hate to bring up that first, but, you can also have a very, very a poor athletic coach who turns your life around to the positive. So there's going to be I can almost see a matrix or a spectrum showing up here. But let's get to the idea of what you said, though. Good coaches. Good coaches, I think, now, you can be a horrible person and win a national championship. You can be a horrible person and coach people to the world championships. Okay, let's just put that aside. Good coaches tend, and this is a generalism, but good coaches tend to have a firm base of fundamentals, plus the ability to know that this part of your life, the athletic sport or the training program, is part of your life. It's not your entire life. The good coaches who I've had, Dick Knopmeyer, Ralph Mon come to mind immediately, but even, certainly Dave Turner and many of my training partners. Coach Mon, I remember, just a small little side issue, but after I graduated, I was his MVP at Utah State, which is a big deal, even though no one seems to care. I represented the school very well, but he would get our grades and then send them to us. And so in the summer of my senior year, when I was trying to figure out what to do for the rest of my life, a little letter came, and inside it was my grades. And Coach talked in a note about how proud he was of my GPA, which was, not bragging, but it was 4.0, just saying. And about how important that was, that I was so balanced in my academics and my athletics. But he also coached me up to an international level discus thrower. But he was also able to understand that my academics were going to be the thing that paid for dinner for the rest of my life and kept a roof over my head. That's just one thing, Bryce. The other thing, Bryce, so that'd be number one, someone who appreciates both sides of things. Number two, there are no secrets. That would be, I don't want to move that into number one, but man, that is, when there are secrets, or the whole nudge, hey, I got to talk to you about something, bring you over, and then they tell you about drugs or this thing they're selling or some secret. That's usually a sign of not a good coach. I think everything should be on the table. Everything's out there. And if it's, I have friends who've told me they've never competed without being on certain kinds of drugs. And I'm like, holy cow, this event you won, the Utah Summer Games, is just not that big a deal, and yet you took drugs to win it. Um, so those would be the two. Those would be the two biggest ones. Um, and then three would be the whole area of communications. Does the person have the ability to make things clear to you, to you now? Now, like with my friend Anne, she's a very good coach, but she's also been born deaf. Okay, born deaf, and so I think she's a very good coach because she demands eye contact with her people. And when I watch her coach, I'm usually like, yeah, she does some things that those of us with the five sentences miss badly. So it's your ability to communicate. And that's why I like to work with people who are deaf. I also have a client who's blind. I also have, people with certain diseases. Because it forces me to, well, I'm going to use the word empathy. It forces me to have some empathy first. And then it also forces me to improve my communications. Now, the upside of that, Bryce, of course, it's a win-win because if I can work with someone who's deaf, it makes it that much easier for me to coach someone who isn't deaf, someone who isn't missing a limb or something. That's good. So keep those three big thoughts in mind, with the emphasis maybe first on number one, with the idea of they see beyond the gym or the field. Thank you, Bryce. And if you don't mind, I'm going to think about that a little bit more too. Maybe in a few months, you and I should have a conversation. Thank you. We have a question from Jason. I appreciate this kind of thing. Hi, Dan. About a month ago, you gave me some ideas on how, as an older guy, I could warm up faster, and I'd like to share my results. I love the feedback, Jason. Thank you. You mentioned moving the workout from 5 a.m. to approximately 3 p.m. when the body is naturally in a warmer state. I did this for 1 week, and it was a difficult move for me for two reasons. While my body seemed to move easier, I didn't have the same energy levels as a morning workout, and it felt like it took so long to get to, I was anxious. I think that after many years, my body is just accustomed to early morning sessions. I had to move my training back to the morning. Well, that's just fine. But it was interesting, and I hope the listeners are paying attention because you didn't say that changing times was a bad thing. It's just that your habits made it didn't work. So I have the same issue now. I know that if I'm going to throw a better time as I speak right now, and yet I roll out early in the morning, 5 or 6 a.m. I train at 9:30, and yeah, the workouts aren't perfect, but boy, and then I eat after that, breaking my fast, and it's been great for my body composition, great for my work, great for my brain pan, but not great to throw elite distances. So your feedback is excellent, and it'll keep me in mind about some other things. Number two, he says, wearing a hoodie and sweatpants. This seemed to work well, and such an obvious solution. This is a keeper. I haven't gone near a sauna suit. Hopefully, I don't have to. We have one in the house if you ever really need one, and I can barely walk around the block without going, "Are you kidding me?" But isn't that simple? Isn't that a simple answer? Number three, changing the order of workouts. I did this for a few weeks and I realized maybe I was doing too much during the one workout. So I changed things up while focusing on squats one day, deadlifts another, etc., etc. More importantly, I also changed my warm-up to include either one of your barbell complexes, good, or some walking medicine ball toss. So some walking followed by 10 sets of 10 kettlebell swings and goblet squats, then band pull-aparts, one arm medicine ball toss, ab wheel, and a loaded carry. I have 10 to choose from. Moving the loaded carry to the end of the warm-up was a great move because it really got my body ready to go. And that's really interesting. Total time hasn't changed at all, and it still falls between 45 minutes and 60 minutes. This move has been a game changer for me and a definite keeper. If you look up in T Nation, you'll find an article I wrote called "The Warm-Up is the Workout." It's funny you came into the same pattern of thoughts that I did. I had some ideas from intervention and your podcast to incorporate into my daily routine. Thank you for providing a ton of valuable information, including all the recent workshops on YouTube. Well, it's a delight, and I got to thank you for feedback. The feedback really helps me as a coach. Um, I got some real nice insights from your feedback. And by the way, I never disagree with feedback. I always use it to open up another window, another door. Sometimes if I tell you should try something that doesn't work, the reason it doesn't work is just as important as it flat out didn't work. So thank you. We have a question from Steve. Would you recommend stair running for athletes that aren't serious competitors? I live in a high-rise, so there's no shortage of stairs, and would love to incorporate stairs as a way to keep my cardio levels up. Do you have a recommendation for frequency and duration of running stairs? Or if running up and down cement stairs could be damaging to the joints? Let's stop right there. I always tell people to run up the stairs and walk down. Run up, walk down. If that hurts your joints, then we probably have some other issues we need to consider, Steve. I'm 31, 200 pounds with no joint issues and do grappling and kickboxing 4 to 5 times per week. Okay, so on the number of times a week, first off, yes, absolutely. I think stairs are wonderful. And if you have a good enough high rise, you might be able to figure out that, doing one might be the base workout. Start at the bottom, go to the top, walk back to your place. And maybe a 2 or 3 might be the hard and then the wow workout. And there's nothing wrong with the wow workout. If you're maybe 4 floors or 3 floors, that might be, you might want to knock those numbers up sometimes. Generally with stair running, I've kind of kept with what Robbie Robinson told me. He told me about twice a week with that one set of stairs he recommended. But I know some people, the San Francisco 49er guys, Barry Sanders used to do it more often. But for most people, I think once or twice a week is better. And right here, why, Steve? I want you to emphasize the quality of the stairs, not the quantity. I'd rather you hard charge one and go, wow, that got me going, versus doing a bunch of garbage ones up and down, up and down, up and down. When I was in high school, I once did 25 of them just to kind of push me. I used to call it the big push, but that was probably way too much. When we had that nice hill at Judge Memorial, the most we ever did was 4. And I thought, after that, that was good maybe once a season. It was a steep, steep hill. So I would argue, Steve, less and do it for longer. So once or twice a week, 1 or 2 or 3 rounds, depending on how much it is. But I want you to do that for 10 years, okay? Versus doing 50 today and never doing it again. All right, thank you, Steve. Great question. Well, we got a question from Phil, and I think I can help him a little bit. A brief history. I worked for the Forest Service on wildfire shot crew, working 6 months out of the year, 40 to 21 days straight for a fire roll, 16 to 24-hour shifts with 2 days off in between fire rolls. We spend our days hiking, running, chainsaw digging, line, move logs, and forest debris with over 60 pounds of gear. We accumulate over 2,200 hours of total work during that 6 months. Then we get the other 6 months off. After years of overtraining my off-season preparing for that following year's fire season, I was constantly injured chasing too many rabbits with not enough recovery time. I really had to do something self-reflecting if I was going to continue to be a strong crew member. I had to let the ego go. Phil, that's great. And by the way, just so you know, my brother Phil, who died last June, was good friends with all you guys. You guys made a huge difference during the Paradise fires of about a year or so ago. And you will always remain in my heart. This off-season, I really started to tune in and read some more of your articles. I discovered the 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge. After completing the challenge, I moved into easy strength with Maffetone runs. I like this. The combination of the two had me feeling stronger than ever with a gas tank to match. After easy strength, I moved into your mountain climbing program, which really got me ready for this year's season. I have never been healthier or more prepared for a fire season. So thank you. We are currently in the fire season now, so my goals have shifted from maintaining my post-easy strength numbers and run times to stay fit for duty. When I can, I try to sneak in some original strength and some basic grease-to-groove bodyweight movements, one-arm push-ups, planks, pistol squats. And I've also had some resistant bands I take on assignment, banded walks, face pulls, clamshells. Time and energy are limited when the clock on assignment, so my question now is, with the work demand and type of work we are doing, would you recommend keeping, omitting, adding any exercises to help maintain a healthy body and therefore mind during our season? First off, David, thank you. Thank you for your service. In a there is no template for what you do, and there never will be. You remind me a lot of the special forces guys I work with just trying to figure out what we do. If you go to Dan John University, and if you decide you can't, email me and I'll send it to you. I have a program called the Post-Deployment Workout. And even though I loved what you did this year with the 10,000 strings and the easy swings and the easy strength and the Maffetone, I'd like you to look at the post-deployment workout I recommend. It's some hypertrophy, it's some bodybuilding, it's some movements, it's original strength combined, and it's only a 3-month program. So if you took a month off just to turn the engine off, and then did this 3-month program, and then I'd recommend the mountain climbing program next year, because that basically is easy strength. Maybe that's all you'll need. But while you're working, your job is to get your sleep, get your food, get your mind straight, get your decision matrix good. Make good decisions. Make good decisions. Save yourself, save your crew. So make sure you're feeling healthy and make sure things are going well there, okay? There is Phil. I'm sorry, the things are, so Phil, I'm sorry. The name David is right there. But Phil, I really appreciate this. And you're doing fine. You're doing all the right things. And don't forget, part of the reason you were able to have the kind of off-season you did is because your experience and your time out there. So keep reminding yourself you know the job. And you can come in with much less physical training because you're set to go up here, Phil. All right? Thank you so much. And please let me know how you're doing. This is from David now. I want to try the 10,000 swing challenge, but I've run into a bit of a wall. It seems like no matter what I do in terms of chalk, callus care, or rep scheme, I end up tearing my hands up once I get around about the 200 swing mark in a single workout. Is there a way to alter my grip? Should I be looking into those gymnastic grips that I see showing up in that place? Any help or suggestions would be greatly appreciated. You know, David, why don't you just wear gloves? I go to these home places, and they always have these nice gloves on sale. Hey, I don't care if you wear gloves or not. I mean, no one cares. Just get yourself a pair of good work gloves. They come in red and they come in yellow, and they really are stitched in they're like double stitched in right here. Try those. Don't listen. Don't worry about wearing gloves. It's all good. That macho nonsense with the gloves. I mean, I get it. I'm as old school gets, but just get yourself some gloves and try it out. I would do probably maybe 100 swings. Maybe try it this way. If you're doing two-handed, try 100 swings with the glove in the left hand and one in the right, and then switch, right and then left, and just see if something does heat up during the time. And then 100 swings, and then the third 100 swings, try it with both hands with gloves, and maybe on the fourth 100 try no gloves, and just see where things are happening. You might find that the hot spots are just the way your hands are caught in the kettlebell. But try that, okay? And hey, and it's okay to have gloves. All right? Thank you. Bill asks a tough question. Is there any exercise which can reduce waist size, or is it all about body composition and genetics? I'm not referring to body fat percent, but the actual size of the waist of lean individuals. So, Bill, I'm certainly not an expert in DNA, but from my observations, some people are just born better. There was a famous bodybuilder who kept his waistline at 29 with his body weight up to about 250. I mean, how do you do that? It's the way you're born. If you're like me, you born of Western European um, coal mining heritage, we're very good at turning cabers and throwing rocks at people and getting in the fights. You're gonna have a waistline that's, you know, when I was young, my waistline was 36 and I weighed 162. When I weighed 209, when I weighed 209, my my waist measurement was 36. I'm not sure I can get under 36 no matter what I do. It's just the way those wide hips are. But it's a good question. I don't think there's an exercise, just straight up. It is going to be fat loss, and it's going to be, well, there is that one thing you suck your stomach in, the vacuum. You'll see that in yoga books. It's supposed to be good for your digestion. It also looks really cool when a bodybuilder does it. But I just don't think so. The problem is once you start exercising, you're going to build muscle fiber, which of course is going to widen you out. It's a good question though. And if any reader has more information, listener has more information, I mean, if there is something, I'd love to know. I've never seen it. When I started Olympic lifting, my spinal erectors got so thick that my waistline went up, but it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen because it's like my waistline with the inches was bigger, but there was no difference in the body composition. Just my back got bigger. Kind of a weird little couple of months to figure that one out. And then, of course, once I hit a certain age and didn't lift so much, those things flattened back out. Good question, Bill. We have a question from Daniel. I have signed up and just started on the site. I wanted to hear your thoughts on a program for my brother who needs to get stronger for rugby. Now, this rugby thing comes up all the time, but let me finish. He is just finishing high school and will be going to university in the fall. Do you have any recommendations on a program he should start? There's a team in Scotland called Glasgow Academy that has this beautiful matrix. And the first thing is, are you strong enough? And they have a series of issues. But your brother's gonna need to have at least a double body weight deadlift. He's gonna have to be probably cleaning and front squatting, benching, body weight and a quarter. So at least probably more. So what he needs is a basic strength program, the kind that mixes the Olympic lifts with the power lifts. And you've got to get him running away from bodybuilding. And there's nothing wrong with bodybuilding, but what happens sometimes with guys is they look and they see a team like Ulster, about, I don't know, 10 years ago when these guys were just a mammoth team. These guys were immense. And you figure, well, I got to look like that. Well, the way they look like that is through prowlers, cleans, squats, deadlifts, bench press. That's the kind of program you got to put your brother on. And he's going to have to start lifting heavy. He's got to work on his speed. He's got to work on his speed endurance. Rugby is something I call a quadrant 2 sport. And so he's going to have to spend a lot of time developing a lot of qualities. And if he's not cleaning now, he better learn how. If he's not squatting, he better learn how. If he's not deadlifting, get going. This is what it takes to be a quadrant 2 athlete or quadrant 2, a collision sport or occupation. It's time to get really strong in the big kid lifts. Mark asks a question. What kind of upper body work would you recommend for a 58-year-old guy with a history of wear and tear? So he says this now. This makes it very difficult. Benching and overhead pressing both hurt my shoulders due to old injuries. And this is the problem with old injuries, Mark. One quick thing, and this is something you can respond to me on. Do one-arm overhead presses hurt? It's interesting because often guys who are jacked up, when they do a two-handed military, it really lights everything up. But when you do the one-hand presses, magically it doesn't seem to hurt as much. That would be, so if, no, that's if you press. I'm a big believer in these things called suspension trainers, and there's a couple exercises I'd like you to at least explore. But listen, Mark, you're going to be, you're pushing against, you're pushing against an injury, which is always tough. But I'm a big fan of the T, the Y, the basic row with those suspension trainers. Try those, and you can do it. I mean, you can do it with rope the first time. I invented these really cheap ones with cast off stuff around the house that I just literally just threw together. Maybe I should actually do a video on poor man equipment or something. But try the suspension trainer and get back to me if that stuff hurts. And then from there we can talk about some other things. It might be something, Mark, you want to consider is joining a more commercial gym and maybe go in 2 days a week and use their machines, their upper body machines. One of them, now, it is Frankenstein's monsters training, I agree, but you're at the age where you want hypertrophy, bodybuilding, and joint mobility. So if you're on a machine where you're doing tricep extensions and everything is safe and not hurting, well, you're going to get the benefits of the press without the injuries. Whenever I get a surgery, for about 3 or 4 months, I get a 3 or 4 month membership at these 24/7 places. And by the way, they don't want to give you a 3-month membership. Boy, they make it tough. I know, just 3 months. Well, I can do $9 for the rest of your life. I don't want a lifetime membership with you guys. For one thing, you're not going to be around, and two, I don't want to be around you. But getting a short-term membership to a place that has a lot of different machines, you might be able to cobble together maybe 3 or 4 upper body movements that don't hurt because the machine is taking the load away from the pain. And that might be the answer for you. Again, when you're pushing against injuries, it's always tough. Good luck to you on this, and report back. We got a question from Dan. What a nice name. And Dan says, I am a boxing coach. I want to get your thoughts on what quadrant it fits into. Quadrant 2, collision sports, collision occupations. Also, conventional boxing wisdom says don't lift weights or only lift super light weights many times. I don't agree with that. I question this wisdom, and I agree with you. I understand they want to avoid hypertrophy because all that will slow your hand and speed down, and it'll put you in a heavier weight class. However, are we just throwing the baby out with the bathwater? Yes, you are. Boxing is a skill sport, and nothing beats superb skill, but a more athletic and stronger fighters usually win. Is there a strength program you would recommend for boxers? Yeah, I work with a number, Dan, of UFC guys. Now, I can't say their names, but almost universally, I get them on the easy strength program. And one of the things we really kind of strive for is, and I move many of them to, we call it the 3 verticals. So an overhead press, a vertical pull, and the deadlift. And really, if you just did those 3, because you're probably not going to need the ab workout from the ab wheel, and you certainly don't need the swings. But just do those 3. I would argue, let's make it simple. Vertical press, vertical pull, a deadlift. Those are 3. 3 sets of 3, 3 times a week, and nudge those loads up. That's a pretty good program. If 3 sets of 3 gives you some issues, then there's some other issues too. Every so often, ping me a note and we'll make some subtle changes, but try the big vertical press, vertical pull, pull-ups, and deadlift, 3 sets of 3. Gently move the load up when the weights feel light and just see what happens. There are some boxing coaches that are very good. The program called Program Minimum comes from a boxing coach, Steve Bakari, and that's just Turkish get-ups and kettlebell swings. The only issue with those 2 exercises is, they both have become cults. But the other issue is there is some teaching that goes along with it that might be difficult. But the overhead press, the pull-up, and the deadlift are pretty darn simple. And get back to me. Let's talk some more, okay? Another Dan. It's the day of the Dans here. Dan says, in your resources workshop, You speak on Pareto's law and grading experiences. For things you give an F grade, 80% takes 80% of your time, and you only get a marginal benefit. You recommend stopping or getting rid of them. Do you still have these same recommendations when it applies to family relationships? Dan, I'm going to tell you something that's going to break my heart a little bit. Yes. I decided a while ago that this is a good question. It kind of hurts my feelings to say it out loud. I mean, my feelings. It kind of, I don't feel like I'm very heroic, but yeah, I don't communicate with some people who share a lot of my DNA because I felt like the relationship was totally one-sided and I wasn't getting any benefit out of it. I called one person one time and said, "Yeah, hey, I just wrote a book and before the sentence was out of my mouth, the person went up me with a article that they had written in a newsletter for this little tiny community thing." It was like, and yeah, so I just realized that, we invite people to, in my family, we're kind of funny about something. If we invite you to one of our weddings and you don't go, especially if you're in that inner circle of family, you don't go, mentally I put a little check mark. And if you miss a couple of them, well, you can only have so many check marks. Dan, this sounds horrible, but I have talked to my father-in-law, Lynn Hemingway, about this. And he nodded and he goes, "It's a tough one, isn't it?" I go, "Yeah," because you feel like it's almost a religious thing. It's like you feel guilty if you decide certain family members you're going to choose not to communicate with. But I have family members, I would never allow anybody else in this planet to treat me the way some of my family members have treated me. And so you sit up one day and you go, why am I allowing that person to ruin my day? Well, because we share DNA? And it's really helped me overall, I think. So yeah, it's not a happy thing to talk about. I'm not proud of it, but I'm honest with you. Thanks for that, Dan. And I'll have to spend the rest of my day thinking about this. We have a question from Barry. If you were to design a one workout per week program, what would it look like? Would it be the same as Marty Gallagher's? So Marty Gallagher, squat, bench press, deadlift once a week. If you can get something else in the week, great. But very programmed numbers you need to hit. Only one barbell, which if you have 13 people, one barbell. It starts off at 45, it goes to 65, 85. Oh, I'm going to take that. 95, 100, whatever. Numbers keep going up, and you take what you're appropriate. And then when everyone's squatted, you tear the bar down and you bench press. You start at 45 and go the way. Would I do the same thing? I'll tell you why, yes. First off, Marty's done it and it works. So why, cliche time, reinvent the wheel. The exercises that I would love to have in there, like the snatch and the clean and jerk, are too technical. So doing them one day a week, you probably could do it, but you really need the extra mobility. So the power lifts are much better. In fact, I'm not sure anything else would work. And how does relative strength come into play when choosing a program? Example, you and I are similar in age, and I also played football and competed in the discus and hammer. Well, I like you, Barry. You, however, are much stronger than me. Is one program better than another program based on how strong one is? Yeah, but Barry, there's more to that. It's also the experience level. And I think sometimes people miss that. So what I would recommend years ago to this program called the One Lift a Day. So, real basic form would be Monday is snatch, Tuesday front squat, Wednesday clean, and let's just make it the simplest. Saturday you do a total, snatch, clean and jerk, total. And then you just repeat that, okay? Not perfect, but not bad. Well, it doesn't work unless you're a good snatcher and a good cleaner and a good front squatter. What does good mean is you have to be at a level that you know the lifts well enough that you don't have to get all those extra reps in. So yeah, it is true. It is true sometimes certain programs, what I call bus bench, the programs with a vision of things, boy, it helps to come in stronger. You know, if you're doing something like a mass building program and you can squat really heavy, well, adding the reps is going to you're going to improve your lean body mass far better than somebody who, you know, two guys weigh 205, you squat 495 and the other guy squats 135. The 495 squatter is going to make better progress with body weight squats. So yeah, that's true. If I'm not answering your question well enough, Barry, just ask. I'm just asking you for a bit more clarity. I think I'm understanding. I think I answered what you meant, but I can also see how I could have missed the boat on this one too. So if you can, let me know if I answered. Okay? Thank you, Barry. Well, hey, listen. Thanks so much for listening today. Remember, if you have questions, email them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com, and I'll do my best to answer everyone that comes in. Thank you so much for listening.